Hello everyone, I'm Samantha and welcome back to another quick NCLEX reviews video going over a new style of question you might see on your NextGen NCLEX. There's several new question styles that might pop up, so don't miss our other videos on those topics so that you can go into your exam feeling prepared and ready to tackle whatever comes your way. Today, let's talk about drop-down rationale format. In a drop-down rationale style question, you'll be demonstrating that you understand concepts through paired information. So you'll just be justifying concepts by identifying rationales. I know that makes it sound a lot more complicated, but let's break this down into some simpler terms. I like to think of this as identifying the what and the why in a client care situation. So for example, what should the nurse do next and why should they do that next? Or what is happening with your client and what is the evidence you have that leads you to believe that? Let's make this a little clearer on the next slide. With this question type, you might have a dyad or a triad question, which essentially means either 2 drop-downs or 3 drop-downs. Each drop-down will have 3 to 5 answer choices to choose from. Now let's take a closer look at the format here and how they are scored. With the dyads, or the ones with just 2 blanks, you need to have X and Y correct to earn 1 point, which is the maximum possible for dyad-style drop-down rationale questions. Here are some examples. A nurse must do X because of Y, or a client has X as evidenced by Y. So if you miss either the X or the Y, you get 0 points. No partial credit on dyads. But if you get both correct, that's 1 point. Now on to triads with 3 drop-downs to complete. Here's a few examples on that structure. A nurse must do X because of Y and Z, or a client has X as evidenced by Y and Z. Scoring is a bit trickier with the triads. You don't get a point for the cause or X, but you have to get X correct to get any points at all. So if you get X, Y, and Z correct, that would be 2 points. If you get the X portion right and miss either Y or Z, you still get 1 point. Now, if you miss X and get that incorrect, you would get 0 points, regardless of what you put for Y and Z. Now let's jump into an example. A 67-year-old man presents to the emergency department with concerns of blurred vision, a throbbing headache, chest pain, nausea, and vomiting. Look over the information provided and complete the following statement appropriately. So here at the bottom of the slide, you'll see your client's vital sign record. I'll let you look over those vitals, and then we have a dyad-style question for you to answer. Feel free to pause here if you need to in order to give yourself some time to look things over. I'll show you the answer choices here on the next slide. And here are your answer choices for each drop-down. Pause this video to pick your answers and then press play when you're ready for those. So the client is at a higher risk for A/An blank as evidenced by his blank. So our first blank options here are hemorrhagic stroke, arrhythmia, myocardial infarction, or transient ischemic attack. Now our second blank options include tachypnea, hypertension, pain score, or oxygen saturation. Again, go ahead and pause this video and fill in those blanks for me. When you're ready, press play again and we'll go ahead and work through it together. So here's the correct answer for this dyad. The client is at a heightened risk for a hemorrhagic stroke as evidenced by his hypertension. Now, do you remember what is considered a hypertensive crisis? That would be a systolic blood pressure greater than 180 over 120 millimeters of mercury. So this client is absolutely at the point of what's known as a hypertensive crisis. And what are some things we're concerned about with hypertensive emergencies? Well, target organ damage for one, so that would be things like cardiac ischemia, aortic dissection, and renal failure, to name a few. And what's one of our biggest concerns in this situation? A stroke. So do you remember what kind of stroke we're specifically worried about when our client has sky-high blood pressure coupled with those physical symptoms? Hemorrhagic stroke, you've got it. While this tachypnea or rapid breathing and pain score are also part of the bigger picture of what's going on, they're not going to be the cause behind the increased risk for a stroke, which would be the highest priority right now. And here's a little bit of bonus information for you all. We discussed how a hypertensive crisis is a blood pressure of 180 over 120 millimeters of mercury or higher. But how do we differentiate beyond that? What is a hypertensive urgency versus a hypertensive emergency? Well, a hypertensive urgency will have that sky high blood pressure, but no major symptoms of organ damage like chest pain, shortness of breath, or changes in vision. Now, a hypertensive emergency, on the other hand, will also have that same blood pressure, 180 over 120 or higher, and those symptoms that are associated with target organ damage, like shortness of breath, chest pain, visual disturbances, numbness, or even difficulty speaking. So, our client we discussed in this practice question was definitely experiencing a hypertensive emergency. That's it, folks. I hope you feel more confident in this style of question so you can walk into your exam feeling ready for whatever that NextGen NCLEX throws at you. You've got this. We're rooting for you. Happy studying.